My friends, we are going to grow and get better together. This is not about me. This is about us. Welcome to Win Today with Johnny Martin. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Win Today with Johnny Martin. So happy to have you all back. Joined, as always, in the studio by my good friends from Cloud9 Marketing Group, Mr. Dylan Pilon. What's up, man?
How we doing?
Life is good. Good to see you again, brother. And from Seven Roads Media, my man, Donnie Cav.
Can you also mention that I'm the brains behind this operation?
Well, that would be discounting Dylan's efforts as we try to run this operation.
Dylan did a fantastic job setting up the mics and stuff today, yes. Congrats.
Yeah, which is awesome because you very rarely let anybody touch any of your stuff. So
this is very true.
So, folks, welcome back. This is going to be a two-part episode. I'm super excited to be able to talk to everybody about this today. It is a topic that is not only near and dear to my heart, but I think one that is confusing to some people because we throw the word motivation around all the time. But very rarely do we give people the tools, the strength, the ability to tap into their own strengths and gifts and find their why. So that's really what this episode and the second half of this episode that will air shortly is really about. So again, this is the Motivation Station on Win Today with Johnny Martin. I want to start off with a story. There's a young man by the name of Kevin Turco. Kevin Turco is probably the most motivated human being that I have ever met in my life, or one of the most motivating human beings I've ever met in my life. So here's the Turco story. He is now a head football coach at a college in Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. What's motivating about this and about Kevin is how he got there. In previous episodes, you heard me make reference to a gentleman by the name of Lou Holtz. Well, let me talk to you about how Kevin and Lou Holtz are connected. Rewind about 20 years. This was a young guy just out of college, was coaching high school football. And we go to Boston for the weekend. And we're in Boston, and Kevin runs into his ex-girlfriend, who is clearly very, very happy in that evening with another man. So we get up the next morning. We're driving back from Boston, and my buddy, as we call him, Turk, is driving in his 1988 Buick. And he's pissed off. He's angry. And I said, "What's up, man? You still bummed out about seeing your girl last night?" No, man, I'm over that. He said, I'm not living it, man. I'm not living it. So I said to him, "What are you talking about? You're not living it." He said, "I tell my athletes every day, I tell my students every day, you want something bad enough, find a way to get it. And I'm not getting what I want out of this life." I said, "Well, what do you want? What do you want out of this life?" He said, "I want to work for Lou Holtz. I want to coach under Lou Holtz. I want to learn the game from the best that's ever lived." Now, Turk had read all of his books, knew everything about him. So I said, "What's your plan? What are you going to do?" And we're young kids at the time, man, 22, 23 years old, just starting our jobs and enjoying life. We get back to Springfield, Massachusetts after our drive from Boston. And before he even gets out of the car, fellas, and Donnie, I think I've told you this story before, but before he even gets out of the car, he looks at me and he said, "I'm going." And I said, "You're going where?" He said, "I'm driving to the University of South Carolina to meet Lou Holtz." Now, I don't know in that moment what came over me either, but I knew him well enough to know. Now, Turk is a United States Marine. He was one of those guys that came up tough. Nobody ever handed him anything. He earned everything. You know, he had just every obstacle thrown in his way throughout his journey, but he never stopped, man. He just was just relentless in his pursuit of his dreams. So, and I get the chills now when I share the story, and it's 20 years later because he and I are still best of friends to this day. We talk all the time. So he looks at me and he says, I'm going now." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I'm packing a bag. I'm grabbing my Marine Corps dress blue uniform, and I'm driving to meet Lou Holtz." So I looked at him, and the only thing I could think to say was, "If you don't go now, you'll never go." Whatever it was, whoever intervened, if you're a faith-based person listening or whatever it was for me in that moment, the only thing I could think to say to him was, "If you don't go now, you'll never go." We go inside the house. He packs his bag. I think I had a couple $100 cash in the house. I gave it to him. I said, just take this, use it for food, gas, just get yourself there and call me when you get there. Gets back in the Buick, drives straight to Columbia, South Carolina, where Lou Holtz was the head coach at the time, University of South Carolina. So he calls me now. It's Monday morning. And he's crying, bawling his eyes out. I said, man, you okay? He said, I've never been better. I'm in the parking lot at the stadium. I'm like, wait. Did you meet him yet? Have you met him? No, I haven't met him, but I drove straight through the night. I only stopped for gas and coffee. I got to find a way to get cleaned up and put my dress blue uniform on, but I'm here. I made it. I'm in the parking lot of the stadium. I said, man, you got this. Remember, if you don't walk in now, if you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. These are one of those moments in life, folks, that will change your life. So fast forward 5 hours. Calls me again. Crying again. He calls me Gunner, but he says, Guns. I just met with him. So now I'm crying, sharing that excitement with him, sharing that joy with him. I said, what happened, man? He said, well, I went into the football building. I found a restroom. I put my dress blues on. I walked up 3 flights of stairs. I introduced myself to the secretary, and I said, my name is Kevin Turco, and I'm here in pursuit of a dream. And the woman looked at him and said, excuse me, sir? He said, well, I just drove here from Springfield, Massachusetts, and I'd like to meet Lou Holtz. She said to him, well, he's here, but do you have an appointment? He said, no, ma'am, I'll wait as long as it takes. Waits a little while. Lou comes out. They spend 2 hours together talking. Fast forward now several years. When he left that office, Lou Holtz said to him, listen, I love the fact that you've drove down here. I'm impressed by your motivation. I'm impressed by your heart. But I don't just hire guys when they drive down from Springfield, Massachusetts. So if you came down here and you thought you were going to get a job, you don't have one. But I'll help you. What's your plan? For the next 3 years, my buddy worked all over the country, wherever he could find work. Sleeping in locker rooms, sleeping on couches, sleeping in coaches' offices, paying his dues. Finally gets a call in June. It's Coach Holtz. Hey, I'd like to have you come down and work some of my camps. We'll see how that goes, and I may have a position available for you when the fall starts. Gets hired as a graduate assistant coach at the University of South Carolina. Their opening game is on primetime TV. William Bryce Stadium, Columbia, South Carolina, 85,000 people. I look in the tunnel, I see Lou Holtz, and right next to Lou Holtz, I see my buddy Kevin Turco. The smoke starts, the music pops, and my buddy, because he took a shot, because his why was stronger than everything else in his life, what happened 5 years ago, that shot he took 5 years ago led him into the tunnel at William Bryce Stadium to start what has now been a 15-year coaching career that has put him all over the country with the greatest minds in the business. And now this year, this fall, was his first year after paying his dues for 20 years where he landed a head coaching job in the state of Illinois. I thought it was a great way for those of you folks that are listening to start this episode of the Motivation Station, because we are going to talk a lot today about finding your why. I do not believe, folks, that most people are unmotivated. I think we throw that word around too much. Well, the person's just not motivated. They're not achieving the significance that they want because they lack motivation. I believe that people, every person, you listening right now, your friend that you talk to after this, the person that you talk to at dinner tonight after you listen to this podcast, I don't believe that people are unmotivated. I just believe that most people do not fully believe and are willing to invest everything in their ability, passion, and their why. We get wrapped up in the shit that we have to do, and we lose excitement for the stuff that we really want to do. See, my buddy Turk, he realized very, very early in life that a lot of the stuff he was doing, he was getting wrapped up in the stuff that he felt like he had to do. But with every breath he took, with every day that passed, he wasn't doing the stuff that he wanted to do. He wasn't chasing his why. This episode, the one that follows, is not going to be an episode, folks, about why everything is positive and the power of positive thinking can overcome all of your obstacles and all of your hardships and all of your triumphs. No, this is real. This is about the fact that in our lives, whether you like it or not, sometimes life throws us a giant bag of shit. And there's no way around it. My life, your life, Donnie and Dylan, our lives, it is going to throw us shit from time to time. That there's just no way to make positive. So the question isn't whether or not you can take that situation and make it positive. For me, what I've found in the work that I've done with kids, families, corporations, athletes at every level all across this country is it's not whether or not the situation sucks. Sometimes situations suck. It's whether or not you want to sit in that shit and smell forever, or if you want to move on and find your why. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. We have to spend less time getting wrapped up in the stuff that we feel like we have to do. We all have busy lives. We all have jobs, careers, families, school, responsibilities. We all have that stuff. Is all of that stuff leading you closer to your why? That's the question I really want you to ask yourself. If you don't take away anything else from this episode, from discussions you may have with your friends and family because of it, work on finding your why. How do you do it? How do you find your why? Donnie, what motivates you, my friend? What's your why?
To provide for my family and to leave something for my kids.
I love that. In your work that you've done for almost 20 years, outside of the work you do now with Seven Roads Media, you've always been able to do that, to provide for your family, right?
Yep.
So you check that why box, right? That why box gets checked. Mm-hmm. When you say you want to leave something for your kids, what do you want to leave? Is it something of value, or is it something different than that?
I think for me, one of the reasons why I started this business was to provide for my kids in a short term, in the short term. But as this has grown, I feel like when I say leaving something for my kids, it's going to be leaving a successful business for them to run and provide for their family.
What a great blessing. We talked in previous episodes about the difference between Donnie and Dylan, right? Success and significance. So this fact that when you go, what you've created will help your kids become successful people. At least give them that opportunity if they so choose, right?
Yep, if they choose.
Awesome, awesome blessing. How about you, Dylan? What motivates you? What's your why? And I know Donnie, he danced around it a little bit, and he never said, listen, we also know that your why is paper, baby. Love it. You want that cash.
Love it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Are you kidding? Hell no.
For me, I think my biggest motivation really has always been I want to be that go-to guy.
Sure.
I want to be the person that my friends can lean on and my family can lean on. And I'm fortunate that my passion and my why intersected at a very young age. And I figured out something that I enjoy doing, that I was able to monetize, which helps my why of being able to help the people around me, whether it be financially.
Hell yeah.
Or also just to be that resource for folks, for insight, for emotional support.
Whatever it might be.
Right.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So the reason that I bring that up to you two guys, and the reason I start with your why for those of you folks that are listening, is that there's really two simple questions that I provide with people when I work with them all the time that I want them to ask themselves as we help them to define their why. Pretty simple questions. What do you wake up in the morning excited to do? Remember, we have to start removing I have to from our mindset and start creating I want to. If those two worlds can't somehow intersect, then you are going to, I'm afraid that you may live a life that is completely driven by your work or your school or things that you feel like you have to do. And the loss in that is that you can never truly tap into your gifts, the things that help you define your why. So I ask people that I work with, clients and corporations and schools and businesses, I ask them all the time, what do you wake up in the morning excited to do? And what do you do? And what do you do to when you go to sleep at night, what are you thinking about? Two really simple questions. And I want you to think about those from a positive perspective. If your thoughts are bills, deadlines, all of that stuff, we're not thinking in the right mindset. What do you wake up in the morning excited to do? And what do you go to sleep at night that you can't stop thinking about? I really think these two simple questions will start to help you define your why. In the work that I do, one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is this notion of judging, right? We are so interested in what everybody else has. We spend time on social media looking at what other people are doing. We spend half of our dinners with family and friends instead of being present and enjoying the company that we have. We spend that time in poisonous conversations about people, places, and things that have absolutely no bearing on our success or our failure. That ultimately is up to us. So the second thing that I think will really help is don't waste a second on judging. If you're going to observe other people, make it just that. Make it observation. I observe people all the time with an open mind, and the thing that I'm looking for the most is not what they're doing right. I want to see what they're doing wrong. I examine their mistakes so that in my own life, as I'm watching these people and observing these people that I deem to be successful or significant people, I want to see what I think they could be doing better so I can avoid those mistakes. But I'm not going to waste any time, attention, or energy on gossip. I want to stay right in my lane with my foot on the gas. Once I start swerving into other people's lanes that are not mine, lanes that are not ours, then we take that time, attention, and energy and resources away from us. The other thing that I think is hugely helpful, and I think we're losing it more and more in our world today, is we need to practice more humility. It's okay to be wrong. If you're not wrong along this journey, if you're not screwing up along the way, then you're not chasing what you truly, truly have the ability to earn. You notice I didn't say deserve. We don't deserve anything. I don't deserve a damn thing. There's plenty out there for me to go out and get, but I don't deserve any of it. Once you start thinking you're owed something, you're already beat. I'm not owed anything. I don't deserve anything. But there's a lot out there for us to earn. A lot. And that's why after working a full work week, that's why the three of us are sitting in here talking about life and trying to get better and try to inspire other people to do the same, because I am not owed a damn thing, and neither are you. Work on practicing humility. Admit when you're wrong, and look for people, places, and opportunities that provide a different perspective than your own. Take a really good look at your life. You guys know the old adage, is the glass half full or half empty? Well, we typically look at that example, right, when we're talking about situations, specific situations, right? So a good example is you get a flat tire on the way to work. Son of a bitch, I got a flat tire on the way to work. Well, the half empty person says, shit, my tire's flat. The half full person says, well, I got 3 others that are full of air, so I only have to replace one. It's a simple shift in mindset. Does it start your day off a little bit more difficult? Of course it does. Does it make for a longer commute to work? Of course it does. But when you measure that against everything else that you have in your life, that you have the ability to create and earn, it's insignificant. So you got to think about that glass example as it relates to your life. Is your life half full or half empty? And if it's half empty, you're responsible for filling it. And the last piece for today's episode, and again, we are going to pick this up in our very next episode, you got to do your very best to be authentic. Be you. This has been, on a very personal note, this has been my single biggest area of weakness and growth over the last couple of years. Because for almost my entire adult life, I was very, very concerned about what other people thought of me, how I presented to people in my life, including my wife, my kids, my brother, my parents. And when you create this image that isn't real and isn't your own, it doesn't take long for people to start to see right through it. And the biggest area of growth I've ever had in my life is when I came to the point when I realized nobody is really worried about my journey. So why am I so concerned about what they think of me? And it takes a lot of time, folks. You guys that are listening, this notion that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and rewrite the book and say, okay, no longer do I care about what anybody thinks about me. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in really small steps, but it will get better. So that's the last piece for today's episode, is really work on being you. Find something that you can work on today that will create more authenticity in your own life. Because at the end of the day, you're writing this story. And when you go, your story goes with it. Not anybody else's, not people's perceptions. You know, the only person you can never lie to in this life is the one that stares back at you in the mirror. When you can start to create your own authenticity, when you can start to truly be who you are, you're going to have a much, much easier time tapping into the why. I can't thank you all enough, as always, for joining me on Win Today. Again, a special thanks to my good friend Dylan Pilon, Cloud9 Marketing Group, my man Donnie Cav, Seven Roads Media. This episode was again sponsored by my good friends at Team Strength 261. You can find them on all forms of social media at Team Strength 261. Be good to those you love. Let them know you love them. This is your boy, Johnny Martin, signing off. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Thank you to Seven Roads Media and Cloud9 Marketing Group for co-producing the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Without you, I cannot continue to do what I love. You can follow me personally on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real John C. Martin. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with comments and questions after each episode. Your comments push me to get better every day. As always, thank you for your continued support, and don't forget, win today.